All right. We're live.
Perfect. Good evening, everyone. Bonsoir, tout le monde. I believe we'll start with the roll call. I believe one of the councillors just showed up as well, so perfect timing. So I'll just ask everyone to state your name for the record, please.
Michael Ternosky, present.
André Brisson, présent.
Jamie Lauren here.
Cindy Sauce, present.
Perfect, thank you very much. And our clerk, Madame Camille Laflamme.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm here. Joanne.
Perfect, thank you very much. La prière puis l'hymne national, il n'y en a pas. Quand on fait ça virtuel. Item 4, additions, deletions, or amendments. We have a few additions for this evening. So first item under 13A, notice a motion for Councillor Saucier and Conseiller Brisson as a seconder on the Code of Conduct. And item 13B will be under Councillor Saucier and Councillor Tarnowski for Jonathan Pitt. So again, notice of motions are just brought forward tonight, but they're only discussed at the following meeting. And then under sections 18, 18A, Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus resolutions brought forward by myself and Councillor Saucier for 18B, an update on Terry Fox Run. Anything else from the members of the council? Councillor Tarnowski?
Sorry, I just got to find my note here real quick. I would just like an item, 2 items to be added. One on the Emblem tennis courts. And I would also like to ask for a status update for the agreed upon painting of bicycle pedestrian section on Blaze Street. Please.
Okay, perfect. So those items will be under 18C and under 18D. All right.
Oh, I got one too.
Councillor Lorraine?
Sorry, because it just recently came into my inbox, I'd like to ask about the indoor facilities or the arena facility changes that were made.
Okay.
So I'd like to ask a couple of questions on that.
Okay. Perfect. So that'll be under section E. All right. So that's it for additions, deletions, or amendments. So adoption of the agenda. Motion to approve the agenda as amended. I need a mover and a seconder. So moved by Councillor Tarnowski, seconded by Conseiller Lorraine. All those in favor?
Mike Ternosky, yes.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Sauce, yes.
Perfect. It is carried. Item 6, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Hearing none. Déclaration d'intérêt pécuniaire. Oups, non, sorry. L'adoption des procès-verbaux. Procès-verbal de la séance ordinaire du Conseil du 8 septembre 2020. Motion d'approuver le procès-verbal tel que présenté. Proposé, on va le mettre sur le plancher. Proposeur, appuyeur. Proposé, conseiller Brisson. Appuyé, conseillère Saucier. Question. Conseiller Brisson, conseiller Tarnowski.
C'est juste mentionner qu'il y a une nouvelle version parce que dans le vote pour servicer la 417, c'était un vote enregistré, puis ça avait été marqué que c'était conseillère Saucier et conseiller Tarnowski qui avaient voté contre. Puis c'est conseillère Saucier et conseiller Brisson qui ont voté contre. Ça a été changé comme c'est là, mais juste mentionner qu'il y a eu ce changement-là.
OK, oui. Parfait. Councillor Tarnowski?
That addresses it. Thank you.
Okay. Perfect. We're good with that, Madame Camille Laflamme?
Yes, there was just another note I can mention from the draft in the first package and the one that was amended. There was just the date in item 10F with respect to the minutes of the counties. It was indicated March 27th, but the minutes that were adopted by council and in the package were really May 27th. So that has been corrected at the same time.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Another thing, sorry, Mr. Mayor, we just added a note also at number 16, the bylaws, 16B. just to make sure that the bylaw that we had postponed was all not indicated as approved, because it was indicated all bylaws in the list were approved, but just to make sure we noted the bylaw for the PIC report was not approved, it was postponed.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank
So
you.
all those changes were made. So we have a mover and a seconder. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Couldn't find my button. Sorry, Mike Ternosky, yes.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Sosa, yes.
Perfect. Item is carried. Thank you. Item 8, presentations, we have none. 9, delegations, we have none. Item 10, motion that all items listed under consent items be received as presented. We have item A, minutes of the Parks, Recreation, Culture Advisory Committee of June 22nd, 2020. B, the minutes of the Environmental Advisory Committee of June 10th, 2020. C, the minutes of the Russell Historical Society of August 12th, 2020. Puis la liste des comptes pour août 2020. Questions, commentaires, questions, comments? Hearing none, we'll put on the floor, sorry. Mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Saucier, seconded by Conseiller Lorrain. All those in favor?
Mike Ternosky, yes.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Sosa, yes.
Perfect. Items are carried. Move on to reports from departments and council committees. Item A, removal of part law control. I refer to bylaws at item 16, 138 to 160 St. Malo Street in Embrun. Any questions, members of council? Standard stuff. Anything to add from the administration? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next item. Item B, zoning bylaw amendment, report PD 54-2020. That council receives report PD 54-2020 dated September 21st, 2020, and approves the zoning bylaw amendment to bylaw number 2018-94 for the subject property to amend the zoning of the subject property from rural residential exception 9, RR9, to general commercial C, to permit conversion of the existing building to an animal hospital, and that council determined that the official plan Village of Embrun boundary adjustment for the subject property is considered minor, and that council determined that the adjustment of the boundary of the commercial designation in the official plan for the subject property is considered minor. Questions, members of council? Anything to add from the administration? This is in regards to the old Leduc House, almost across from our sports dome on the other side of Notre Dame Castel.
Mr. Mayor?
Madame Tremblay?
Yes, so good evening. I just want to mention the reason why it's just in case council is wondering why we're adding the second part of the recommendation. It's just basically the, as you could see in the report, the property is half and half designated commercial and zone commercial at the same time in some of the official plan of the township of Russell and the official plan of the counties. And there's a provision in both official plan, I would say that when the boundaries are not following a property line, it could be considered minor as an adjustment. So we don't need to go through a comprehensive review, but it needs to be determined by council that you do consider this as a minor adjustment for the county official plan, so we don't have to ask the proponent to do a full official plan amendment. So I just want to clarify that that's why you see this in the recommendation.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Madame Tremblay. If there's no questions from members of council, we'll move on to the next item. Item C. Demande de modification au règlement de zonage, rapport PD 61-2020, terrain vacant situé sur la future rue Namur à Embrun, dans le lotissement Place Saint-Thomas. Que le conseil reçoit le rapport PD 61-2020 daté du 21 septembre 2020 et approuve la modification du règlement de zonage au règlement numéro 2018-94 pour la propriété en question afin de 1. Modifier le zonage de zone résidentielle un A avec aménagement différé R1 à H à zone résidentielle 3 A3 pour permettre la construction d'habitations arrangées du côté ouest de la rue Namur. Et 2, modifier le zonage de zone résidentielle 1A avec aménagement différé R1 à H à zone résidentielle 1A R1A afin d'enlever le symbole d'aménagement différé du côté est de la rue Namur. Question membres du conseil, questions members of council. Councillor Saucier.
Yeah, I just had one. So these townhouses, I know there was a concern from some of the residents that were already living there that there was going to be shadowing or the height of them, but these are not abutting up to the single family homes, am I correct?
Madame, thank you, Councillor Saucier. Madame Tremblay.
So just to answer your question, Madame Saucier, the townhouses on if you could see map 3 and 2 of the report, it's on the west side of Namur Street. So backing those property at the moment, there's no houses, and they would be facing single detached dwelling. Okay. So they're not adjoining single detached dwelling.
Okay, so because I think the concern from the residents was because it's a zoning change, like they were sort of saying, had they known, they might not have purchased there, and that they were concerned about their property value. And then the McIntosh Perry report said that, you know, secondary units are possible. So I'm also concerned about the width of the road again, like where the other townhouses are. Are we going to have problems again with the emergency vehicles if we've got lots of cars and no parking?
Thank you. Councillor Saucier, Madame Tremblay.
So just through you, Mr. Mayor, so the question, yes, we did receive some concerns regarding the type of dwellings that were permitted, but at the same time, I want to reassure council that the planning department and the planning committee is recommending it based on the provincial policy that does state that it's our mandate to offer all type of dwellings and intensification where services are already available. The road width is the same as every other project, so the road width is a 20-meter road allowance, and again, council will have the options to not permit parking on one side of the road if we believe that this would become an issue for parking on the street. And the other point I would like to bring council's attention is that even if it's townhouses and that we're permitting to change the zoning from R3, that the townhouses regarding the size, the height, and the distances from property line do meet the requirements of the zoning bylaw. So they're not asking any other provision to increase the height or reduce the minimum setbacks of the side yards or front yard. So therefore, that's why we're comfortable of recommending the zoning amendment, and as well just to comment on the report that was added to the report from McIntosh Perry. So it does say that they reevaluated the proposed zoning amendments for considering the increase of density that they're proposing, and that they unforesee any problems for the level of service that the roads existing in the subdivision, including the proposed townhouses, they will not have any negative impact on the existing road and the peak of traffic that we're seeing right now. So that's why we've requested McIntosh Perry to make sure that we're addressing concern from the residents. Now we have a professional opinion saying that they don't foresee any problem for traffic because of the increase in density.
Okay, thank you very much, Madame Tremblay. Conseiller Lorrain.
Yeah, I just have a quick confirmation that I want to make sure of, and I said it at the planning meeting as well. Just to confirm, by removing the H holding in this at the same time as we're doing the zoning change from R1A to R3 and R1A to, I guess taking the HOA, we are assigning water and sewer to those units, correct?
Through you, Monsieur Leduc, Madame Tremblay.
So there's pre-servicing agreement that were signed with those units. So the ones that will fall under the agreement, we don't go in front of council to reallocate those additional units. So that's one point of the question. If there's more requested, then they will be requested at the time of the permit application, and then we'll come in front of council to allocate those extra units.
Perfect. Just wanted to make sure. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, members of council? Anything else to ajouter, Madame Tremblay? No. Okay, we'll move on to the next item. Item D, Water and Sewer Allocation Report PD 67-2020. The council receives report PD 67-2020 dated September 21st, 2020, and the council allocates the requested units of municipal water and sewer unit for secondary dwelling units for the properties described as followed. 0.65 water and sewer unit for 728 Azure Street, Russell, Lot 8B on Plan 50M 345. 0.65 water and sewer unit for 730 Azure Street, Lot 8A 50M 345. 0.65 water and sewer unit for 732 Azure Street, Russell, Lot 9A 50M 345. 0.65 water and sewer unit for 734 Azure Street, Russell, Lot 9B 50M-345. 0.65 water and sewer unit for 736 Azure Street, Russell, Lot 10B 50M-345, and 0.65 water and sewer unit for 738 Azure Street, Russell, Lot 10A 50M-345, for a total of 3.9 municipal water and sewer units. Questions, comments, members of council? This is pretty standard stuff. Anything to add from the administration? Hearing none, we will move on to the next item. Mise à jour de l'impact du COVID-19 sur le budget 2020, rapport FS 31-2020, que le conseil reçoit le rapport FS 31-2020 daté du 21 septembre 2020 à des fins d'information. Any questions, comments, members of council? Councillor Chinoski. You're on mute, Councillor Chinoski.
Thank you. So my questions are pertaining to looking at the difference between our initial analysis, which was roughly $300,000 more of a potential loss than what is being presented here right now, and which is great. I'm really happy about that. I wanted to just double check on the risk in this kind of revised forecast. So in the revised forecast, I noticed that where we have much lower losses are in our main park and rec assets. And with the kind of increased kind of second wave COVID that's happening right now, I'm concerned that we're a little bit too quick to eliminate that risk to December. In other words, what I'm saying is now we're looking at a negative of about 633,000 compared to what was about 933 or 930. And I feel that this is being, and that's what I wanted to ask question is, are we being overly optimistic considering this second wave coming in? Again, if I point out some of the big changes between this forecast and the last one, a lot of them had to do with the arenas and the and our big rec centers, right? So the arenas and the complex, their revenues ramping up.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councillor Chinoski. Monsieur Godin.
Merci, Monsieur le Maire. Bonsoir, cher membre du conseil. So, Councillor Chinoski, it's a good question that you're posing, and it was one of the points that I was going to point out. One of the factors that I was going to point out is there is still risk of having a second wave and of our services being impacted again. At this point in time, what we're presenting is kind of an update, and it's based on our current situation with the services that most services that are back active, but they're active but not necessarily at 100%. In the last estimates that were shown to council, which is in Schedule B, I believe those the arenas and certain services we were anticipating opening only in November. Which explains the increase in revenues in this estimate. So just to clarify and to a piece of your comments, it's important that council does understand this is really estimate. This is just a picture in time of what we're currently estimating. It could be worse, and it could not be worse. It could be better as well. We don't know for sure. But it is the administration's position still, like we had mentioned in the first report, that we expect to be in a position where we're able to satisfy those losses without necessarily having to impact the 2021 budget. Even if there is a second wave that comes along, we were allocated a $400,000 grant to help out with those loss of revenue or increased expenses. At this point in time, we don't anticipate needing that full $400,000 in 2020. But if that is the case, that money is there and can help in reducing that burden.
Perfect. Thank you, Monsieur Godin. Follow up, Councillor Tarnowski.
Thank you. So my other question was pertaining to the mitigation of this loss. I just want to make sure that I understand clearly. So now what we're talking about, 633,000 potential loss. Am I understanding it correctly that, for example, if I look at specifically daycare, so we're looking at a loss in daycare of over 200,000, because we have a surplus for daycare, specifically to daycare, we can use the daycare surplus to mitigate that particular loss? Is that correct?
Monsieur Godin.
Through Mr. Mayor, that's correct, Councillor Tarnowski. So that reserve that we have accumulated in the last few years from the daycare revenues is there to be used for that service. So if we do have some losses in the daycare department in specific, we can definitely go, and that would be our recommendation, that we use that reserve that's in place to be able to alleviate that.
So as of right now, based on this, which I find very positive outlook of 633, I think it's going to be more based on what's happening now in Ontario. We're able to kind of mitigate most of it. And I believe, what was the portion for taxation that would have to cover? There was just a small amount that would be outside of anything that we already have in surpluses or reserves. What was the amount? 170?
Right. So the amount that was allocated that derives from departments that are supported from taxation is $450,000. So, and looking at the exercise, the cost that we're seeing there is we're strictly looking at the COVID cost, right? So outside of the impact from COVID, we have already identified certain areas where we might have had some savings, be it timing of staff hiring or long-term leaves that created savings. Or as I mentioned in the report, there's also our taxation where the growth was higher than expected. So we do have a surplus of revenue there. So that's why I say that I'm confident in saying that we're going to be able to cover those losses. Even if that 450 goes up to 500, 550, we're looking at lines that we can look towards to kind of cover those losses. And as I said, also not as a last resort, but also a surprise from the government was that $400,000 grant, which will go a long way to help us out. Also, where we're hoping is that we can use our current budget to cover these losses, and that $400,000 can be used in 2021 should there be some a second wave that lasts into 2021 that hasn't been budgeted for. That would also be an option.
Okay. Thank you very much, Monsieur Godin. Any further questions, members of council? Anything else you'd like to add, Monsieur Godin?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So basically, we'll still keep council updated as we move along, because as Councillor Tarnowski pointed out, there could be a second wave coming, which could further impact our services. So we're keeping on tracking all those costs and all those loss of revenues, and we'll be able to update council as time goes.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Monsieur Godin. We'll move on to the next item, item F. Rapport d'activité semestrielle des finances, rapport FS 32-2020, que le conseil reçoit le rapport FS 32-2020 daté du 21 septembre 2020. Monsieur Godin, anything specific you'd like to point out?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing real specific. I think if there's no specific questions on the report, I'll pretty much leave it at that. I know this semester's activity report was a bit on the lighter side. It's not to say that the team's been less active. We're always working on improving our financial processes and initiatives. So I'm very happy with where the team is right now. And no, if there's no questions, I don't have anything to add.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Questions, members of council, on this report? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next item. Item G, La Madeleine Street Sanitary Servicing Costs, Report FS 33-2020. That council receives Report FS 33-2020 dated September 21st, 2020, and that the bylaw be adopted as presented. Questions, comments, members of council? Seeing none, Monsieur Bourgon, anything you'd like to add to this report? Or is it Monsieur Godin?
Thank you, Mr. Well, I was just gonna say it actually was a joint report between myself and Monsieur Godin, and I'm just proud to say that we're able to offer a service to the resident on the lighter side of what was expected when we did present to council almost like a year and a half ago.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, it was nice to see the costs come in lower than had been expected. Awesome. If there's no questions, members of council, we'll move on to the next item. Item H, Indexing of Development Charges Rates, Report FS 34-2020. The council receives Report FS 34-2020 dated September 21st, 2020, and adopts the proposed bylaw to amend Schedule C1 of the user fees bylaw and approve an indexation increase of 1.6% for the development charge effective January 1st, 2021. Question, comments, members of council? If there's nothing, anything to add from the administration, Monsieur Godin?
No, merci, Monsieur Maire.
Perfect. So with that, we'll move on to the next item. Item I, Asset Management Semi-Annual Activity Report, Report AM 03-2020. That council receives Report AM 03-2020 dated September 21st, 2020. Questions, comments, members of council? Hearing none. Monsieur Godin, anything specific you'd like to point out?
Merci, Monsieur Maire. No, nothing really specific. We keep the finance team and the asset management committee, along with recreations and infrastructure, we keep on working on all the different asset management policies and initiatives. So we're hoping to present some, again, keep moving forward and bring some updates to council, and especially during budget discussions in October, we'll be able to touch base on where we are regarding our infrastructure deficit and what we're doing to help out with that.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Monsieur Godin. Next item is item J, Étude environnementale de Limoges, rapport ISWATWW 03-2020. Que le conseil reçoit le rapport ISWATWW 03-2020 daté du 21 septembre 2020 et approuve la suspension de l'étude environnementale annexe B pour fournir les services d'eau et égouts à Limoges. Questions, commentaires, membres du conseil? Questions from members of council on this report? Anything to add from the administration?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just say that basically that report's in front of council following last week's decision to award the contract to start the design of bring services to the 417 Industrial Park. So and that's why we're here tonight, just to confirm that we will put a hold on that study for now. And the work that was completed up to date, it's still valid, or with a quick update to be taken if someone would come in front of council requesting to bring services at a later time.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Monsieur Bourgon. Yeah, the opportunity is always there for landowners in Limoges to get together and come make a proposal to council on how that they would like to move this forward if they have any interest in doing so. So the door is always open to those investors who are looking to bring those services on our side of Limoges. You just have to come and contact our administration and present to council if that's something of interest to you. Any questions, members of council? If not, we will move on to item K. Wait, allez-y, Monsieur Leduc.
Merci, Monsieur le Maire du Conseil, bonsoir. Yes, also part of this report, as we all know, that the Nation has signed an agreement with Clarence Rockland to bring services to Limoges. Obviously, the previous report does show us how much it was the cost to bring services there. We may still be approaching Nation regarding units of water and sewer, depending on those who own properties on our side. But at least now we know what the cost is. And again, if anybody wishes to have services that and they're willing to pay up front for them, that they come to us, and we can certainly contact and reach Nation to see if we can get some new quantities as required. So I want to express that publicly.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Mr. Leduc. And it's nice to have the fact that Nation is going ahead. Having prices for both sides, both systems, gives the opportunity to the investors and the landowners to decide whether which one is a better investment from their side. So definitely we'll be moving forward if we have some residents or businesses or investors on our side that are looking to move forward. Okay. Next item, item K. Petition sewer project on Dazé and Pincourt Street, report ISWW03-2020. The council receives report ISWW03-2020 dated September 21st, 2020, and receives a petition signed by the residents of Dazé and Pincourt Street. And the council gives direction to the administration to select the engineering firm for the design of the sanitary sewer. Question, comments, members of council. Councillor Tarnowski.
Okay, so I just was wondering if I'm assuming that this is Dazé to Pincourt and then Pincourt. And if so, can someone just confirm that there are only 13 residences in that space?
Monsieur Bourgon?
Merci, Monsieur le Maire. So yeah, that's correct. It's only like this Dazé, so it's only from Saint-Augustin to Pincourt, and Pincourt, it's not a long street, so yeah, so it's only 13 residents.
Okay, and my second question, if I may, is just to confirm the process that we do to validate the respondents. What I mean by that is because there's only 13, the difference between accept to go ahead versus not go ahead is so minor that I just wanted to know that how do we know that the 8 that said they want to do it, or the 8 people that responded, sorry, or the 9, I forget what it was, but that they're the actual residents.
Okay, Monsieur Bourgon, I believe it's a petition that was presented to you.
Yeah, exactly. It's a petition that we did receive from those homeowners, and for us, like the bylaw that was approved by council mentioned the 60% of that affected area. So there's no mention of how many houses or what's the ratio. Basically, we just follow that 60% from that affected area.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, if I just clear up. So yeah, that makes total sense to me. I just wanted to confirm that when someone presents the petition with names on it, that we validate those. C'est-à-dire qu'on fait le suivi, que quelqu'un remplit son nom, puis il n'a pas été rempli pour lui.
Monsieur Bourgon?
We've looked at the names, but we didn't reach out separately to all those homeowners to see if they're the ones that signed the petition.
Okay.
So we checked the names, but we didn't confirm with them directly.
Okay, my only concern in asking that question is because it's such a small number that the impact of 1 or 2, or just, I think it would be 2 anyway, so I think we're pretty safe, but the impact could be possible if someone wasn't actually confirmed, that's all.
Yeah, and just to confirm at this point in time, this is just for the design. It's not a go ahead on the project until we have some actual numbers that all the residents will be able to sign off on and agree to, Monsieur Bourgon?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. So there's 2 other time during that process that the resident will have to vote and to confirm, and those votes will be led by the administration. So we'll be able to validate that everybody's in agreement, or at least over a majority that was established by the bylaw.
Okay, thank you very much, Monsieur Bourgon. Conseil Lorrain.
Yeah, just for Councillor Tarnowski's point, I think maybe that's something we should look at from a process perspective before we even, not for this one, obviously we can move forward on this one if the vote goes that way, but maybe on a going forward basis, we take the time and make the confirmation calls maybe that's something we have to put into the document that tells us how, or the bylaw that tells us how we would move forward on these types of petitions, and actually confirm at this stage that yes, these 60% or 70% people are actually the people, and maybe that brings them into the process as well, and they feel like, yeah, the petition is something that they that we're listening to and we're moving forward. And I don't know, I just think it makes a lot of sense to reach out to them right from the get-go and confirm that they want that, so, or they are who they are.
Thank you, Conseiller Lorrain. Monsieur Leduc.
I will agree with that because I had that in my notes. But my concern when I will discuss with Mr. Wilgon will be, what about those who say yes today and sell off their property and move out? Does a new owner needs to be also on board or not? So we're getting into more and more of the weeds if we go there. So that's my concern there about that, but certainly we'll be looking at that to discuss further and bring for your consideration.
Okay, thank you very much, Monsieur Leduc.
That's all I was mentioning it for.
Okay, any other questions, members of council? If nothing, Todd, from the administration, we'll move on to the next item. Item L, Parks Development Report, Report PR 12-2020. The council receives information report PR 12-2020 dated September 21st, 2020. Question, members of council. Councillor Tarnowski, Councillor Saucier.
So first of all, I'd like to thank Madame Tremblay and her team for this excellent eye-opening report. It was good because this is a request that came from the Parks and Rec Committee, and all the questions that came out of the Parks and Rec Committee were addressed through this report. So I'm very happy, and it's not only very educational, but it's something we're going to be sharing with the Parks and Rec Committee. Certainly answers a lot of questions, and happy to see that the process makes a lot of sense.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Conseiller Saucier.
Yes, no, the one concern I had was on page 4 of 8 when it was saying no new park desired in new subdivisions, although it's rare, because I remember when the cash in lieu situation came up, that was one of the concerns I had from the get-go, and I remember the analogy was used that, well, you know, like in an industrial park, you wouldn't have a parkland, so you would accept cash in lieu, but I hope we're not having subdivisions that wouldn't be putting in a park or green space. I know, like, it was talking about having a timely manner because sometimes it's in the second phase. So so who decides if this is a good idea or not? Like, are the developer, or are we making sure that, you know, communities we know benefit from having a green space, and kids should be able to go outside and get to a park within a reasonable distance. So, and I know we have 26 parks, but you know, it's just that it's a huge subdivision, and right now for children to go to a park, it's far.
Thank you, Conseiller Saucier. Through you, Monsieur Leduc, Madame Tremblay. Obviously, it's township that decides whether we're putting a park in or not. Madame Tremblay.
Yes, so through Mr. Mayor, I don't know if Céline wants to start, or I'll just mention it's a pre-consultation process. So basically we meet with the proponent, and our team with planning and Parks and Recs will discuss what is the requirement. So for subdivision is 5%. So we look at what the parks that are surrounding it, and we look at our policy, and we, Céline will maybe add to the information that there's a master plan as well for parks. So that's where we decide based on the number of houses and based on existing park, that's where we decide if a park would be necessary. You're correct that I would say 100%, not 100%, 90% of the time, the 5% in space will be required for a residential subdivision. The cash in lieu will mostly be used for the 2% for commercial and industrial, where there's no green space required. That's where the cash in lieu will mostly be imposed. Since I'm here, there's only one subdivision, I believe, in Marionville, where we didn't request a park because the park was pretty close. But other than that, I don't know if Céline maybe wants to add something, but I would say 90% of the time it's the 5% that is required.
Thank you very much, Madame Tremblay. Madame Guittard, quelque chose à ajouter?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Yeah, so like Mrs. Tremblay said, most of the time we do take the green space. The other also option that we've seen in the last years, if we don't have enough green space, sometimes we will take a bit of cash flow just to counterpart for what we're missing in green space, but it's still an amount of green space that is very acceptable for the township. So we will never take or accept a green space that is not acceptable in order to install some play structures and whatever we decide to that goes into that park. So we make we try to make some sound decisions on what the development will be for that specific park.
Thank you very much, Madame Guittard. Yeah, sometimes we do have instances where developers are trying to pawn off, if you will, a piece of property that's not to their advantage. But staff make sure that the land that is being given for parkland is good land that's able to sustain what we want in our parks. So thank you very much to the staff for that information. Again, as Councillor Tarnowski said, it was a very educational report. The only thing I would comment is that, unfortunately, sometimes, as we know, as we're informed through this report, that parks come in phases, and developers, will be, their job is to sell houses. So they're willing to tell somebody a park is coming, but they don't necessarily give them a timeline. That's why people who buy houses in new subdivisions should be contacting the municipality to see from our perspective what is going in and what kind of time frame, and that way we could let people know that a park in this area is only going to be in phase 3, for example. And it was a good point that I saw in the report that yes, people who are at the beginning of the construction won't have that park for years to come, but they're normally paying a little bit less at the beginning of subdivision because they have to move forward with those inconveniences of being in a construction zone. So, Madame Tremblay, anything to add?
Yeah, and I just want to mention as well that these parks that are being proposed as part of the subdivision, members of council see it when we bring report in front of council to approve the draft plan of subdivision. So in the draft plan of subdivision, when the township is going to impose all the conditions, the park is shown on those plans, and basically that was part of, we make sure as the township that the park is located at the right place before we proceed with the public meeting. So when people are involved in the public meeting, they see exactly where the park is being proposed. And as well, we got better through the years. We also have the parkland dedication bylaw that does regulate where a park could be located. So initially, I would say maybe 5-10 years ago, we had parks that were permitted the 5% around the pond. So the stormwater management pond, we were accepting that 5% to be surrounding that pond. Now we're not anymore. So that 5% needs to be above the land that is surrounding those ponds. So we got better. So I know that we're referring to a specific like a subdivision, but in this case, it's never going to happen anymore because we're not accepting those pieces of property like Madame Guittard mentioned. We are doing our due diligence and making sure that the piece of property is something that is suitable for the township and the future residents.
Thank you very much, Madame Tremblay. Any further questions, members of council? Anything else?
Yes.
Conseiller Brisson?
Yeah, there's 2 things. Just correct me if I'm wrong, but I was surprised to see that we're able to get the land for the park, even if the project is not finished, as long as it's connected to a road that is used. So that's something that always thought that it has to be finished. So I'm glad that we're able to get that land beforehand. The other thing, I was just surprised because in discussion, it was mentioned that because we had a budget of $50,000 for a new park, and that we had no park transferred. But in the minutes, it says that the Cloutier Park was transferred last year, October. So I was just, I don't know if it's a miscommunication or just a clarification that did happen later on.
Okay, merci, Monsieur Brisson. Somebody want to take this one? Madame Guittard? Madame Tremblay?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So, yeah, the land is transferred technically, but it's not ready to receive a park yet. I think that expertise now involves Monsieur Bourgon. So I'm not sure if Monsieur Bourgon wants to add to this, but I think this is where he comes in at that point.
Okay, thank you, Madame Guittard. Monsieur Bourgon?
Well, I would simply add that it's one thing that it's maybe transferred, but the land still need to be graded, and like there's still work to be done by the developer in some of those cases. So like this subdivision, there's still work to be done by the local developer before it can actually be used by the township.
Okay, so just for clarification, it has been transferred, but there is work to be done, and that's not work to be done by the township, but it's work to be done by the developer at this point, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you very much. D'autres questions, commentaires? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Item L. Rapport sur le développement des parcs, rapport PR 12-2020, que le conseil reçoit le rapport d'information PR 12-2020 daté du 21 septembre 2020. Questions, comments, members of council?
L, c'est ça qu'on vient de faire.
Oh, excuse. M, excuse. Parks and Recreation Semi-Annual Activity Report. The council receives report PR 15-2020 dated September 21st, 2020. Questions, members of council? Anything specific you'd like to highlight, Madame Guittard?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I think I do, because those 6 months were a bit hectic because it did involve 3 months of COVID. Unfortunately, I'm not able to include the summer in there, but still those 3 months were from March till the end of June. So we were very happy to be able to secure $61,562 worth of salary grants for our summer staff, which helped tremendously because like you all know, we did have our day camps and we did have the pool open for the summer, so that really helped. And because of that, we will still be cost recovery and having those programs under those challenging times. So that was good. We were also able to have some winter programs. They were cut around mid-March because this is when COVID happened. So basically there was still about a month and a half of programs to be done. So we had to refund a few of them, unfortunately, but the good part is that they were all cost recovery. So that was the good part of that. Unfortunately, the March break was held only for 1 day. We would have had a camp. We didn't have many kids, but still we had some registered, and unfortunately after 1 day we had to close it down. So that's the sad part. We did also include the weekly challenge that we had for over almost 2 months and a half. We were happy to have 117 kids participating to those weekly challenges. So that was a good thing, and I think it kept a few of the kids, the community kids, busy for an hour or two each week. And then we had the sports dome. The sports numbers, of course, are lower, and that's understandable because we were closed for a full 3 months. So we're just trying to recoup everything, and unfortunately, we won't be able to recoup everything, but the main mandate here is to try to keep the expenses low and still be cost recovery at the end of the year. So this is what we're working towards for. The arenas also were stopped in mid-March. The good part of the arenas is that we were almost done, so we didn't lose a super big amount of revenues. So that was the good part. And we are happy that both arenas were able to open again in September. We do have some challenging rules there too, but we are open, and I think that's very important. So I think that was a resume of the, and of course the daycare did open also at the end of June, and the summer went really well. So we had good numbers there too, so we were happy to be able to accommodate our parents for the summer. So that's it.
Thank you very much, Madame Guital. Councillor Associate.
Yeah, I know it's an ongoing project, but I'm just wondering about the encroachment study. Like, are we hoping to continue that this fall, or do you foresee that it might be pushed later?
Madame Guital.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, no, we are planning to present a report to council by the end of this year. So the report will be showing the encroachment and what kind of encroachment we have along the trail.
Okay.
And we'll be looking for solutions.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Anything further for members of council? If nothing to add, Madame Guital, we'll move on.
I just want to add, I forgot, because there's a big team behind all of this, and I'm happy to say that all my staff stayed on board for the whole 3 months of COVID. So thank you again, because those operators were there every day for the 3 months, and also the staff that were working remotely. So thank you, everybody. Thank
you very much, Madame Guital. Next item, item N, Clerk Semi-Annual Activity Report, Report CL05-2020. That council receives Report CL05-2020 dated September 21st, 2020. Question, members of council? Anything to add, Madame Camille-Laflamme?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Maybe one little point at the end of the report in monthly statistics. Appendix A showed all the statistics, but I wanted to highlight that we had received 2 of the integrity IPC, sorry, or ombudsman inquiries, but the 2 of them, council did not contravene or staff. So the first one was in April, that was presented to council. So council has seen the report already, that was in the package. And the one I received in June, they called me and they said no further steps will be taken, and they were closing their file.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Madame Camille-Laflamme. I think it's important to highlight those because as mandated, when we're found to be contravening a complaint, the ombudsman forces us to put a report in our for council acceptance. But when they decide that we did good, there's no obligation. So, you know, when there's complaints and we're found to be abiding by the rules in place, it's always good to mention that we're doing our job and following the rules as we should be. Anything else for members of council? Hearing none, we will move on to the next item. Item O, CAO Comms HR Semi-Annual Activity Report, Report CAO 04-2020. That council receives Report CAO 04-2020 dated September 21st, 2020. Questions, members of council? All right, Monsieur Leduc, anything you'd like to highlight? It's been a busy year.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Yes, maybe a few highlights. Just to confirm again that our new tenants at the paramedic station have moved into the new building. So that's something that happened during COVID. So they were quite happy to move into the building while COVID is still taking place. We had a few land acquisitions, such as the 225 industrial building, which is again good for us regarding some future expansions or potential solutions to different issues that we have to resolve. Obviously, COVID has taken a lot of my time personally. My staff, Megan, in communications, I have to commend her for that. Same thing for Debbie, again, responding to policy guidelines, again with the COVID policy and mask wearing, and all getting the town hall reopen. So kudos for them, but COVID really kept us busy on that. And in the same time, we still kept on going and awarded our website contract, and this is being worked on by a new website team. And that new website should be delivered to the public by the end of February or early March. So that's kind of the timeline right now. Lots of work by the departments to cut down or to review their documentation and bring up to speed for accessibility obligations that we now had to face. So there's a few things that's going on there. It's quite significant work, but I'm sure that the public will be happy with the new changes to the website. Even with all this COVID taking place, you know that there's been all kinds of new residents and the new resident package regarding where to get this, where to get that, where do I do this, where do I do that. That's been revamped and put more online documentation than before where they had to come in. So that's really helped new residents to move into our community. Yes, you know, it has not stopped. Moves have taken place, new buildings and new construction have taken place also. So, and maybe lastly, regarding our social media presence, I mean, if you did look at our stats, our presence on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, COVID really helped us with that. I think people are following us well, and we're doing our best to put as much information as possible without overwhelming everybody. But I think we did a good job in that sector to inform our community about everything we did or happened in the township offices during COVID in the first phase. So I guess that'll be continuing on now that phase 2 seems to be upon us. But certainly, Mr. Mayor, those are the highlights I'd like to raise to council.
Thank you very much, Monsieur Leduc. We definitely do have a great communication plan with residents, assuming that residents want to pay attention. That's always the challenge. Communication has to be a two-way street. I'm happy to say that our subscription service as well, people are signing up for the newsletters and the emails that are sent out, which is always beneficial. You know, you not always have the time to look at social media posts, but a quick email coming in highlights what's ever being discussed is very helpful. Councillor Saucier.
Yeah, it's just a comment. I just wanted to say I think we're doing a great job with communications, and I know it was a lot of work, Monsieur Leduc, but I really appreciated the COVID updates. You know, I mean, it was hard to know what was going on, but your weekly report, I think, was just reassuring to everybody, and it gave us the information. So I really appreciated all the work that went into that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, comments, members of council? Perfect. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Leduc. Councillor Lorrain, you have a question, comment?
No, just before you go on to the next item, if I just happened to notice in the Q&As that there's a couple of people that aren't putting their names in, and I just thought you should make an announcement to everyone watching, a reminder that we need to have their name and address for the public record before we're going to actually read the questions out during the question period. So yeah, that way give them time to put it in. So
it is stated at the beginning of the meeting when you go on to the live Q&A, but yeah, definitely. If you're going to publish something, you can't do it anonymously. Please enter your name and your address, because it is a matter of public record. So thank you very much, Councillor Lorrain, for pointing that out. We'll move on to the next item. Item P, final update on the 2019 business plan presentation and the 2020 business plan report CAO 05-2020. The council receives report CAO 05-2020 dated September 21st, 2020. Questions, members of council? There was a lot of information there as to what's going on. Councillor Saucier.
Yeah, I was just curious because I noticed it said not started, and I was just wondering what was the update on the Heritage District project? It was in the business plan. Like, where are we at now?
Okay, thank you. Monsieur Leduc, Madame Tremblay.
I'm not quite sure what stage is, so it is started and it will be presented at council before the end of the month of October. I hope so. So basically the full report is done, all the public meetings are completed. Then we just need to present the full report in front of members of council for adoptions or not. But that will be presented by the end of October this year.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Anything else to add from the administration, Monsieur Leduc?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just want to, in the 2020 business plan, you've noticed that we've left the start and finish dates as they were, if they would have been presented to you back in March, like we normally do, or March or April. So that I wanted to keep it like that so that we can see what was the impact of COVID, not only financially, but certainly the impact of COVID on our operations regarding how our staff is being diverted to other attention or other work to do. So it will show you us at the end of the year, were we able to cope and catch up, or simply we're just going to defer a lot of reports, a lot of projects to the next year. But anyways, I want to show you that to council so you're aware of what's, and that was the purpose of it, to show how it has impacted our operations.
Thank you very much, Monsieur Leduc. We'll move on to the next item, item Q. Recommandation du comité consultatif des parcs et loisirs 2020-009, réhabilitation de la station New York Central. Que le conseil reçoit la recommandation 2020-009 du comité consultatif des parcs et loisirs datée du 26 août 2020 concernant la station New York Central. Anyone, members who sit, did you want to speak to this one, Conseiller Tarnowski?
Sure. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to just emphasize that the point of this resolution that came from the Parks and Rec Committee was to kind of try to reignite some action on what's happening with the New York Central Station building that's there at the start of the trail. We had put forth a recommendation back in, or the committee, I should say, put forth a recommendation back in 2019 to see if we can possibly get some sort of information kiosk or something like that worked on that. There was at the time some considerations being looked at in terms of redoing the roof and so on. So the Parks and Rec Committee is looking for some action. And if no action is of interest, then possibly like make it into a storage, remove the building or so on. So just some action onto that recommendation is what's being asked.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Tarnowski. Monsieur Leduc, this will be part of the budget discussion, I assume?
Yes, Mrs. Guitar and I and our treasurer have been working on this. Also, there's also an element of planning also and roads regarding that that relocation, that street, that Blais and Notre Dame. So we had some discussion here. We will have something to propose to council during the budget discussions. And then from there, that resolution can be still discussed further as far as what can be done, and also do we have funds or not for this kind of project.
Okay, thank you very much, Monsieur Leduc. For this evening, it's just receiving it, and we'll have further discussions at budget time. Thank you very much. That it is for items 11. We will move on. Item 12, rapport d'un investigateur ou l'ombudsman, il n'y a pas. Item 13, notice of motion. Item A, notice of motion by Councillor Saucier and seconded by Conseiller Brisson in regards to code of conduct. I think we'll put that up on the screen and Madame Camille Laflamme can read that for us.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So I know it's very small, so we'll read that to you. So the notice of motion, like you said, moved by Councillor Cindy Saucier and seconded by Councillor André Brisson. Whereas Section 8C of the Code of Conduct, bylaw number 2019-021, states that the mayor shall be the official spokesperson for the township. If the mayor is not available, then the acting mayor and or CAO shall assume the role, and that nothing in this section or policy prevents any member of council to submit a motion to reconsider as per our procedural bylaw if he or she wishes to contest any decision of council. And whereas the councillors were voted in by the constituents and should be able to receive and respond to correspondence when addressed to both When addressed to both mayor and councillors, and spokesperson does not mean the mayor can only reply. Therefore, be it resolved that the councillors may respond to correspondence that they receive as long as they are not stating it is the sentiment of all other council members.
Okay, thank you very much. And the second notice of motion, again, these notice of motions are presented at this meeting and they will be discussed at the following meeting in a few weeks. The second one is item B from Councillor Saucier, seconded by Councillor Tarnowski in regards to Jonathan Pitt.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So it reads, whereas Jonathan Pitt was a resident of Russell and a student at École Secondaire d'Embrun, and whereas Jonathan Pitt was known as the butterfly child due to his disease EB, and he became ambassador for DEBRA Canada, raising awareness and funds for research, and unfortunately passed April 4, 2018, and that we would like to acknowledge Jonathan and his beloved dog Gibson by naming the Embrun Dog Park the Jonathan Pitt and Gibson Dog Park. Therefore, be it resolved that council supports this initiative to honor this incredible young man and his dog.
Okay, parfait. Merci beaucoup, Madame Camélé-Laflamme. That is it for item 13. We'll now move on to item 14, question period on meeting of the day. I see we do have some questions. There are some anonymous questions, therefore we won't be reading those until they're actually the person who wrote it can provide their name and address. So we'll move on to the first one is Mr. Charles Armstrong, Castlebush Street. Do we have a diversity committee to appoint members to? I see no such committee in bylaw, but a bylaw to appoint members. I think it's splitting hairs, but Madame Camélé-Laflamme, correct me if I'm wrong, we do have a notice of motion to create the committee, but this is different in the sense that this committee will have the mandate, or its first item will be to create a mandate so that it can be presented to council and approved. Is that correct?
Are we referring, Mr. Mayor, to the first bylaw in the agenda at
Yes.
item 16?
Yeah, I believe
Yes.
the diversity committee.
Yes, so you're right, you're correct. As per the ad that was in the newspaper and posted on social media and the website, the first is to people were to apply for this committee. So now we're appointing them. And afterwards, it's to determine the terms of reference and exactly what will be done in that committee.
Okay, so once the committee, so we're appointing the members to this committee, their first item will be to put together a mandate to present to council to be approved. And once that is approved, that's the bylaw for that committee, correct?
That's correct. Then that will be brought forward to council members, and council member will be considering to approve this.
Okay, perfect. Just to remind as well that people who might not be familiar with council meetings, when we have a question period, it's a question period on meeting of the day. So your question has to be related to items that we have discussed in this meeting. If it's operational in nature, you can contact members of our administration or send an email out to council. But I'll be reading those two questions just to put it out there, but just for future reference. So the next one we have is from Mr. Andrew Greaves, 7 Pink Cool Street in Embrun. I was part of the homeowners that signed this petition. Nearly all signatures were obtained during a neighborhood meeting with homeowners present. Thank you for the clarification. That was a question that was raised, not an actual question, but a piece of information. Thank you. And the next one, similarly, Mr. Greaves, 7 Pink Cool Street. Can we get mats outside of the arena for when we're dropping off the kids for hockey to protect the skates? That is an operational matter. Madame Guital can take that note. Conseiller Larin, you'd like to speak?
Well, it's just, I'll be addressing a piece of that with my, at section 18E or whatever we're talking about. So
okay.
That way we don't have to have Madame Guital come on and talk about the similar issues twice.
Okay, we'll have that conversation after. So thank you very much, everyone. That's the question period for the meeting of the day. We'll move on to the next item. The next item is resolutions. Motion that council approves all recommendations listed on the agenda under item 11, reports from departments and council committees. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Tarnowski, seconded by Conseiller Brisson. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Michael Tarnowski, oui.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Sosa, yes.
Thank you. They are all approved. I think that's been a while since we've been able to do them all as one shot without an amendment to separate something. So thanks, everybody. We'll move on to item 16, bylaws. Motion that council approves bylaws 2020-104 to 2020-109 inclusively for first, second, and third reading as listed on the agenda. So we have 2020-104 being a bylaw to amend the committee's appointment bylaw 2019-002 to appoint persons and council representatives on various committees of council, to appoint members to the Community, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Mayor's suggestion as per section 6.4 of the committee's bylaw. 2020-105 being a bylaw for the removal of part lot control 138 to 160 St. Malo Street in Embrun, number 11A. 2020-106 being a zoning bylaw amendment submitted by Marc Levesque, president of Sclamana Inc., the property owner of 593 Notre Dame Street in Embrun, report PD 54-2020. Item 2020-107 being a zoning bylaw amendment, vacant land situated on the future Namor Street in Embrun within the Place Saint-Thomas subdivision, report PD 61-2020. 2020-108 being a bylaw for the collection of charges for capital costs related to the construction, improvement, and expansion of the sanitary system within the community of Embrun, Township of Russell, to extend the sanitary services to properties on La Madeleine Street, report FS 33-2020. And 2020-109 being a bylaw to amend Schedule C1 of the user fee bylaw for report FS 34-2020. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Conseiller Lorrain, seconded by Councillor Tarnowski. Call for the vote.
Just a question whenever it's on.
Yeah.
Is it too late to have one exempt from it to talk about it?
No, which one would you like to remove?
The first one, 104.
104, the bylaw?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll remove that one. So motion to Conseiller Brisson is amending to remove 2020-104. Do we have a seconder to remove it? Removed by, seconded by Councillor Saucier. So we'll vote on the removal. So all those in favor of the removal of this one item? And then we'll...
Michael Tarnowski, no.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Sosa, yes.
Okay, so this item will be voted on separately. So we'll vote on everything else except 2020-104. I'll call Conseiller Lorrain.
Sorry, I just needed to ask a procedural question to Madame Camide on this.
Okay, go ahead.
So when we have all of the bylaws and we're going to do them all at once in a, I guess in a, it's not necessarily a consent format, we're just grouping them all together because the consent is at section 10 or 9 or whatever it is. Once it's been put on the table, we can ask questions on any one of these bylaws, can we not? Or do we have to separate it out to actually speak to the individual bylaws?
Thank you, Conseiller Lorrain. Madame Camille Laflamme?
It's not a consent item we call, or often it's referred to as this, but it's only that they're all together. So it doesn't mean that you can't ask questions about them at all. No, you're correct on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was, so I didn't know if Councillor Brisson was thinking that he couldn't ask a question on it, which is why he asked to take it out, or whether he actually wanted to vote it on separately. So okay. I just wanted to clear that up.
Okay, perfect. Well, it's separate now. So let's, we'll confirm, yes, that we approve the amendment to separate it. Let's just call for the amendment. All those in favor of separating this item?
Mike Tarnowski, yes.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Sosa, yes.
Okay, so that it's separate. So we'll vote on everything else unless there's sorry. Is there any question on the remaining 4 items? If there's no questions, we'll vote on those 4 other items. All those in favor?
Mike Ternosky, oui.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Sosa, yes.
Okay, perfect. Those items are carried. So 2020-104, we'll just make sure it's on the table. Moved by Councillor Ternosky, seconded by Conseiller Larin. Questions? Monsieur Brisson.
Yeah, there's 2 questions. First one, it was just by curiosity, how many applicants were there to for the position?
We received 10 applications.
10 applications. And out of those, it's 4 that we have, is there any of color?
Yes, there is.
Okay. Okay, that was my only question.
Okay. Any other questions, members of council? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Or just pronounce yourselves.
Mike Ternosky, yes.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Sosa, yes.
Perfect. New committee appointments are done. Move on to the next item. Item 17, new business reports. We have none. Item 18, myself, in regards to the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus. So I'll read off. The Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus had a meeting on Friday and approved some resolutions that I think that we should be supporting. So I will put these on the table, and if members of council feel that we should be supporting these as well, then we can suspend the rules of procedures and create a resolution to support these. So the first one is in regards to the regional food hub project in the United Counties of Prescott and Russell. So it was moved by Warden Rick Phillips, the County of Hastings, and it was seconded by Warden Francis Smith for the County of Frontenac. And it reads the following. Whereas the United Counties of Prescott and Russell wishes to create an innovative food hub and processing plant to structure, process, and distribute local products from small and medium-sized producers across Eastern Ontario and Western Quebec. Whereas this $36.5 million project will have large positive impacts for all of Eastern Ontario, such as supporting local producers, improving food security for local residents, creating 65 jobs, and responding to the province's Made in Ontario objectives. Whereas the support of the EOWC is critical in gathering momentum for this project, given that this project would be a benefit to all of Eastern Ontario, and as many of the MPs and MPPs required to champion the project are from Eastern Ontario ridings. Be it resolved that the EOWC and its member municipalities endorse and provided support to the United Counties of Prescott Russell for this project. So if there's any questions in regards to that resolution, I'll just state when it states support, we're talking about moral support. There's no financial ask to support from the EOWC. This was strictly a let's band together type of resolution. So any questions, members of council? No? So I will ask that we suspend the rules of procedure and pass a resolution that we simply receive and support the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus resolution, and that we forward that to our local MP and MPP, if everybody's okay with that. So I'll put that on the table. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Ternosky. I need two-thirds majority to put it to suspend the rules of procedure. So it's on the table. To put it on the table, I need to call for a vote first. So, and then we can have questions in that regards. So I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of suspending the rules of procedure?
Mike Ternosky, oui. Did you hear me?
Yes, I did. Next one in line. Sorry, just
André, oui.
Jamie, sure.
Cindy Sosa, yes.
Okay, perfect. Now we can, it's rules have been suspended. We're putting it on the table. Questions? Conseiller Larin?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand what this will mean if we support this. Like I don't know what we can say, we can't say. There's closed session discussions. I don't even know what I can speak to right now.
So all this is saying is that we support the United Counties in trying to get this project moving forward. That's pretty much all that's this resolution is saying here. Monsieur Leduc?
So in these cases, many times you will be asked to send a letter of confirmation to the MP and the MPP locally, so that whenever they're asked and to voice their opinion or support, I mean, they will know how we feel about it. So we could probably add that also in that resolution.
Okay, perfect. Good suggestion, Mr. Leduc, that we add that I send a letter attached to the resolution that the council supports it. Again, there's no financial support. This is just that we're looking to see this project move forward in the United Counties of Prescott and Russell. So if there's no further questions, I'll call for the vote.
Mike Ternosky, yes.
André, non.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Sauce, no.
Okay. Madame Karimiri Laflamme, I'll ask for a recorded vote on this. So I'll ask members to state their position again.
Mr. Mayor, first, I missed who was the mover and seconder for the food hub.
Yeah, it was for supporting this resolution. It was moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Ternosky.
Okay, perfect.
So I'll call for the vote again.
Recorded vote, Mike Ternosky, oui.
André, non.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Sauce, no.
And myself, yes. So support resolution will be written up and sent. Thank you very much. The second one that the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus brought forward was a resolution regarding the COVID-19 funding for capital purchases. It was moved by Warden Debbie Robinson from the County of Renfrew. It was seconded by Warden Francis Smith from the County of Frontenac. Be it resolved that the EOWC Inc. requests that the Province of Ontario provide municipalities with as much flexibility as possible in developing the guidelines for the utilization of funds provided through the Safe Restart Agreement. Be it further resolved that municipalities be permitted to use these funds for capital purchases in response to COVID-19. So I'll move this one, looking for a seconder. Seconded by Conseil Lorrain. Again, we need to put it on the table to suspend the rules of procedure, so I'll call for the vote.
Mike Ternosky, yes.
André, oui.
Sorry, Jamie, yes.
Cindy Sauce, yes.
Perfect, thank you. It is now on the table. Any questions? This is Councillor Ternosky.
So can I just get an idea of what we're talking about in terms of capital purchases when we're dealing with COVID? What are some of the, and just for information's sake, I just need to clarify that.
Yeah, so essentially what was discussed at the caucus on this one was there are rules in place with the Safe Restart Agreement as to how the monies can be spent. For example, one of the county's council, the Warden Robinson, who brought this forward, she gave it as an example that in their council chambers at the County of Renfrew, it's impossible to have social distancing the way it's set up now. So there's capital costs involved in redoing county chambers, for example. So they're looking for more flexibility from the province that allows municipalities to best justify how to spend those funds. For example, if there was works associated with redoing our council chambers or having to make adjustments to town hall because of this pandemic, well, we would be able to use some of those funds for that type of project. So that's really what it's doing. It's giving more flexibility to municipal councils compared to what was put in place by the province. So we're just asking for that flexibility.
Thank you.
Any other questions, members of council? No. So it's on the table. I'll call for the vote.
Mike Ternosky, yes.
André, oui.
Jamie, yeah.
Cindy Sauce, yes.
Perfect, thank you. That item is carried, so we'll send a letter for that one as well. The next items we had were item 18C for Councillor Saucier for the Terry Fox Run.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to give an update. As you all know, it was the 40th and it was a different event this year. Most people registered online, but I started to hear that some people were still coming out. So we were trying to avoid crowds, and but there was a couple of hockey teams on bikes, and so then I was requested to put in place some safe crossing. And so I want to thank the fire departments for being out there and helping those that did go out to get across safely. And also I want to also thank Bylaw. They patrolled the trail on bikes, and that just made the whole situation safer. It worked out well. We set up a table just to give out certificates and to give receipts. And in donations, we had a donation jar. So we raised yesterday locally over $4,000. We still have the school totals to go into that. So I'm feeling if we surpass 5,000, we've done really well this year under the circumstances. But nationally, we had a Zoom meeting after yesterday, and 4.5 million was raised across Canada, and that actually surpassed previous years. So by people registering online, going out and doing their own thing, whether it was biking or walking, it was still a successful event. So I just wanted to thank Township for their support on this, and for those who donated online. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Saucier. Thank you to you and Donna for doing this for so many years now. It's a great activity, and I'm glad to hear that the community came out and was able to donate that much money for a great cause. So thank you. Next item D, Councillor Tarnowski for Blais Street.
Yeah, so just to follow up, if I can just get a follow up, we had brought this, I think, back in June. It was just going to be operational to paint some bicycle only signs on the section of Blais Streets where it's supposed to be for pedestrians and bicycles. Just following up.
Okay. Thank you very much, Monsieur Leduc. Monsieur Bourgon.
Merci, Monsieur Maire. So, unfortunately, there's no work that was done. The only thing that we've done was start to look at option that meets the guidelines imposed by the province. So that's where we stand on our side at this point in time.
Thank you very much, Monsieur Bourgon. Monsieur, follow-up, Councillor Tarnowski.
Yeah, so just to clarify, if because when we first brought it up, it was kind of understood, or this is what I understood, is that it was a relatively simple thing to do. So if it is more complicated, is it something that we can try to have for next season, because we're getting along in the season? So,
Mr. Bourgon?
It's not. It's more a thing that we want to make sure that we do in, like, if there's signs or line painting, that it's what's being, I don't want to use the word imposed, but what's in the guidelines. So again, if line painting, you're right, we're starting to be late in the season, but there's anything that we need to purchase as signs, it will be operational. So it's something that can still be done before the end of the year.
Okay, thank you, Monsieur Bourgon. Monsieur Leduc?
Mr. Mayor, Councillor Tarnowski, before we used to have losange painted on the ground, are you looking for the same thing to be refreshed, or are you looking for maybe a bike sign painted on the ground? Were there any more particular details about the request?
Sure. So through the PRAC committee, it was noticed that there were the odd cars that would turn into that lane, especially coming out of the arena parking lot. And so any kind of signage that would kind of really point out to the fact that it wasn't the roadway, but it was either walking path or bicycle. And I think we talked about those bicycles that you can spray white, or pedestrians or something like that, especially at the exits of the arena parking. That seemed to be the trouble area.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Tarnowski. One suggestion might be the bollards we have on Blaise Street, Monsieur Bourgon. Perhaps just put one in the middle so that if a car tried to go there, they would see the bollard and realize that's not a place for a car. It wouldn't be in the way at all. It would be, it would prevent somebody from actually going there. If somebody's, how can I be polite with this? If they're not bright enough to realize they're turning on a section that's not intended for vehicles, I'm not sure that line painting on the ground would actually grab their attention enough. Whereas a bollard in the way of the car might actually prevent them from turning onto that section. But I'll let the administration look at that and see what's, from a safety perspective, what's the best choice. Okay, thank you, Councillor Tanoski. Councillor Saucier.
Is it possible to leave the bollards up there for the winter? Like, is that a problem for clearing snow and what have you?
I believe it. I believe, yeah, it would be a problem clearing snow. The base of it would get picked up and ripped off by the plow. Monsieur Bourgon, is that correct?
Yeah, I can confirm that for the type of equipment that we have, we need to remove them to be able to clear the snow properly on Blaise Street.
Yeah, I'm hoping you leave them up a bit longer. Like sometimes, some years I find they go down quite early, and you know, just to keep the trails safer until the snow flies would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Saucier. Monsieur Bourgon?
Well, it's all, we always remove them about this last week of October, because usually first week of November, the plows are on the road. And that's what the trend we've seen the last few years.
Right, and it's obviously it's the same people that are on the snow plow that are removing these. And if they don't get the chance to take them off before the snow hits, they're too busy to go do it then. Quelque chose à ajouter, Monsieur Leduc? No? Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Item 18E, Conseil Lorrain in regards to indoor spaces and the rules.
Yeah, I noticed that we just got an updated document just probably a little bit before the meeting, and I noticed that there was and maybe this isn't a change, but I noticed the one thing in there, and I'm trying to understand, because we're all part of the Eastern Ontario Health Unit and all the arenas that we're going to utilize. As well, my daughter plays hockey as well, right? So we utilize all these different arenas: Chesterville, Finch, Embrun, Russell. There's Castleman, all these different arenas that are used by different people, and they all have different rules. And I'm trying to understand how we can't allow one parent in to tie skates, and then if they have to leave, they leave. But to at least allow a parent to tie a skate inside, not everyone has skate guards, and how are the kids supposed to put their skates on in the parking lot and then get them into the arena and onto the ice? So yet other arenas that are still within the Eastern Ontario Health Unit are allowing one parent in to actually tie their skates and then get out. I mean, especially with the little kids, they can't tie their skates yet. So I'm just wondering how we're supposed to combat that. And obviously, if we are going to force them to do it outside, are we putting mats out? Are we putting carpet out? Or are we doing something that will actually let them come in with their skates on to not ruin the skates? So that goes kind of to Mr. Reeves' question about carpets or something.
Okay, thank you very much, Monsieur Leduc. Madame Guittard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So the email that you received was more a precision to the rule of having no spectators inside, because last week there was a little bit of confusion when one of the minor sport organization. This discussion was held with the minor sports associations, both in Embrun and Russell. One thing we have to make a precision is with the District 3, which is Embrun Minor Sport, they don't allow spectators inside. So that was one thing. So we wanted to be constant in our rules for both arenas. So what we had discussed with the Minor Sport Association contacts on both sides, we said, well, why don't we give ourselves at least 3 weeks to see how it goes, because obviously we will probably need their help in making sure that we don't go over the 50 people capacity inside the lobby, because you have to realize that if we allow the 50 in the bleachers plus the 50 of the players, which we know we don't have 50, but still we have maybe 20 with the coaches. So when all these people get out of the ice, we have to make sure that we don't end up with 70, 80 people inside the lobby, to make sure that we do respect the 50. So both, all the sports associations did agree with us that we'd have at least 3 weeks to see how it goes, and then work out something, maybe some kind of a husher at the door that would make sure that we don't surpass the 50 going through the doors, and have some ways that they don't meet inside, that as soon as they're done, they go outside. So this is what we had agreed with the sport associations right now.
Thank you, Madame Guittard. Follow-up, Conseil Lorrain?
Yeah, I just want to be clear. I never mentioned anything about spectators in the arena, and I understand that pretty much no one is allowing spectators. In fact, Finch is allowing the one parent to actually stay in if they wanted to. But I mean, to tie skates for the kids, there's got to be a better way than to have them do it out in the parking lot, specifically when they're going to carry them into the arena. Like, I understand we might have spoken to the associations themselves, but I mean, we represent the parents as well, the constituents of this community, and they're the ones that I'm getting the complaints from. Why can't we go in? Other municipalities are allowing one parent in to tie skates. So I just think we need to revisit the piece of the skate tying. In no way that I suggest that the person's going to stay in, so that then you have 20 or 30 people watching. It's more just being able to tie the skates inside, go in with the kids, especially the smaller kids, and then that way there, at least they can take them off themselves afterwards if they needed to, or the parent can go in and grab them and bring them out. So there's definitely a concern around that, and what happens when it rains in the next couple of weeks. We're going to wait 3 weeks, but in the rain, they're already getting dressed outside. They're going to put their skates on. They're going to be tied. Like, I think we need to be more flexible on the allowing one parent into the arenas to allow them to tie skates.
Okay, thank you very much, Conseil Lorrain. Councillor Tarnowski?
I'd just like to support Councillor Lorrain's idea. I think that the important part here is understanding that we're going to be doing this for a while yet, and so we need to plan for the winter months, because there's no way that we can tie kids' skates out in the parking lot when it's 20 below, 15 below, whatever. So we should put in place right now, while it's manageable, a process that's going to let us manage that all the way through the winter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tarnowski. Monsieur Leduc, Madame Guittard, you've heard our comments. This is an operational matter, so I think you guys can work on that and see where you can come up with possible changes to how we implement this. Madame Guittard, for clarification, it's 3 weeks, but week 1 doesn't start this evening. It started last week, I assume, or the week before?
It started September 8th, if I remember correctly.
Okay, so it's almost 2 weeks.
We are in our 3rd week, so obviously everybody's getting adjusted to all this. We've had a little bit of challenge with the spectators issue, but I think that's resolved for now. So we will definitely look into the tying of the skates, and maybe different levels also that could be allowed. So we will look at that, my team and myself.
Okay, thank you very much. And shout out to the YouTube video that was posted, I believe, by the minor hockey in Embrun on the procedures on how to move forward during this crazy time. It was extremely well done. So that was a great video to see.
Yes, that's true. It's the Embrun Minor Hockey Association. They're the ones, and we did ask permission to put it on Facebook, and so that people are aware the right protocol to use inside the building. Okay,
thank you. Conseiller Lorrain?
Yeah, just one follow-up to that. And so As per Mr. Greaves, if we decide that we're gonna keep not allowing the parents to go in and the kids have to get their skates tied in the parking lot, are we gonna be looking at mats or something to walk into the arenas with? I just want to make sure that that's part of the discussion as well.
Yeah. Monsieur Leduc, Madame Guittard?
Yeah, we could look into that too.
Yeah, I was thinking of maybe a tent or something if when it snows or whatever, but again, all kind of cleaning measures concerned, but we'll look at it.
Okay, thank you very much. Unfortunately, I skipped 18C. My apologies, Councillor Tarnowski. That was you wanted to speak in regards to tennis courts.
Yes, thank you very much. I just wanted to take a moment to thank Madame Guittard and her team for the outstanding work that was done in the Embrun tennis courts. So they look fantastic. They're being utilized, and I know from some of the residents when I was talking to them just this past week that they were very appreciative of the reno that we've done on the tennis courts. So congratulations on that work.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Councillor Tarnowski. I believe that it is all in regards to items through 18. Item 19, public consultations hearings, we have none. Item 20, motion to move into closed meeting at the hour of 7:41 p.m. to address matters pertaining to Section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001, SO 2001, Chapter 25 to consider matters relating to 1. Various sales of land in the industrial park, report CS 11-2020 under Section 2C, a proposer pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. Item 2, transfer of land, report CS 12-2020 under the same Section 2C, a proposer pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. Item 3, working conditions, building department, report CS 13-2020. Section 2D, labor relations or employee negotiations. And item 4, closed session minutes of the regular council meeting dated September 8th, 2020. I need a mover and a seconder to go into closed session. Moved by Councillor Tarnowski, seconded by Conseiller Lorrain. All those in favor?
Mike Tarnowski, yes.
Andre, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Sosa, yes.
Perfect. We're now going into closed session. We'll jump into our next meeting in within the next 3-4 minutes. And once we're done our closed session, for those watching, we will be back at some point in the future in the evening just to report out a closed session and close our meeting up. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. welcome back, everyone. I believe members of council will have returned, and we have our clerk, Madame Camille Laflamme. So I'll ask Madame Camille Laflamme to report out of closed session, please.
Yes, so we're back at 9:31. So for the first item, closed session 11, the report. Council was briefed on the subject, and as a result of the closed session, the following motions will be presented for council's consideration. So I'll go to that in a moment. For number 2, the closed session report CS12. Council was briefed on the subject, and a direction was given to staff on how to proceed and to report back to council. And for the third report, CS13, council was briefed on the subject, and as a result of the closed session, council agreed to implement an attraction retention premium program to the following positions: building official and deputy building official, and the chief building official, as presented in the closed session report, closed session 13-2020, and that council approves that a new building official position be created on a 2 years contractual basis. And for the fourth item, the closed session minutes of the regular council meeting dated September 8 were presented and adopted.
Okay, thank you very much.
So we're going to the motion. So a motion that council approves bylaws 2020-110 to 2020-1113. So that's 4 bylaws, inclusively for first, second, and third readings as follows. So the first one, number 110, it's a bylaw for the sale of land of 2.4 acres to 9773690 Canada Inc. The second bylaw is 111, a bylaw for the sale of land of 6.173 acres to Les Entreprises Éric Lemire Inc. The third one is bylaw 1112, being a bylaw for the sale of land of 2 acres to 9204806 Canada Inc. Clôture Régionale, and bylaw 2020-113, being a bylaw for the sale of land of 3 acres to Réunion EMC Enclosures Ltd.
Perfect. So we have those 4 in front of us. So I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Saucier, seconded by Councillor Tarnowski. I'll ask everyone to call for the vote.
Mike Tarnowski, yes.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Saucier, yes.
Carried. Thank you. Next item, Madame Camille Laflamme, that was it?
Yes, the next one is the confirming bylaw number 2020-114.
That bylaw 2020-114 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Russell at its regular council meeting held on September 21st, 2020, be read a first, second, and third time and passed. Moved by Conseiller Lorrain, seconded by Conseiller Brisson. All those in favor?
Mike Tarnowski, yes.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Saucier, yes.
Thank you very much, everyone. Next meeting of council will be held on Monday, October 5th, 2020, and we are adjourned at 9:35 p.m. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much.